Hi folks, welcome back to Technology Review. I'm your host, Mac Jackson Jr. You can find me on macjacksonjr.com, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube. Remember to share, like, and subscribe. I'm here with my co-host today, Sonia Pedovic. Hello again.
Hello again.
All right, we're going to continue our conversation. We've been discussing Facebook and how it affects you as an individual, your privacy and your information that's out there now on the internet. What does this mean to you? And we're discussing that we believe that you should not delete your Facebook account.
Right.
You should keep your Facebook account, but we should definitely hold Facebook accountable. And anyone who takes our personal identifiable information and uses it for marketing, they didn't get our permission. They're using it to market it to us, but we're not getting anything for it.
Yeah. Well, not only that, I think, yes, we should hold them accountable, but there's also the self-accountability.
Exactly.
And maybe I think it's worth a self-audit of what you choose into and not into on Facebook. I think the whole Cambridge Analytica debacle was that app, that personality quiz.
That's right.
So, maybe think twice before you click out to an app that wants access to everything in Facebook. Like, do a self-audit. Like, what are you using Facebook for? And then make sure that that's within your wants and wishes of your use parameters, I guess, and before you just go clickbait on everything.
True. And I have an issue too with single sign-on as well. When you go to these apps, third-party apps, and it asks you to use your Facebook login, and people think, oh, it's easy, just make it easier, use my Facebook login versus create a new user ID and password. Because if that third-party company ever got hacked into or their data compromised, they have your information now to get your Facebook stuff.
But that's interesting. So if you were doing that, how do you now not do that?
Very good question. You can go into Facebook, and there, under your settings, it will show you all the connections of third-party apps that are connected to your Facebook account. You can go in there and disconnect.
So now let's say like Hulu, which happens to be one that I do, I think, use my Facebook. And not only do I have to do that, I have to go to Hulu and reset my password.
Correct. You go into Hulu and reset it within Hulu, but disconnect it from Facebook. Yes. And if you guys, and I know your next question is going to be, oh, Mac, there's going to be tons of passwords, which we just talked about it earlier.
Yes.
If you have tons of passwords to remember, there's a way to keep those in track for you, folks. There's a app that you could use to manage all of your passwords, the third-party app. It's under a system called Password Management System, and the name of the software is called LastPass, LASTPASS.com. What LastPass will do, it will encrypt all of your websites that you visit, user ID and password, and it will save them, whereas all you have to remember is one user ID and one password. It will memorize them all for you. And it's tucked within your browser, under the extension within your browser. So if you go to a website using use a computer, it automatically will go to sites for you.
It's safer than using the Chrome extension or a website one to store your passwords, right?
Yes, very true. And be careful, folks, not to, when Chrome or any of these browsers ask to save your passwords, don't use that. Use a password management system like LastPass. There's a couple other ones out there as well. We're going to talk about other apps in our next segment, but we just want to make sure we got that one in.
Sure.
Speaking of other privacy, let's talk about the kids.
Oh my gosh, I was telling you, I brought this article with me because there's these crazy apps out there that, as a parent, my kids don't have social media, nor do they have cell phones yet. 12 and under, I don't think that's, from our family, that's not within what we think our kids need to have exposure to. But all of their friends have these apps. And so the same day this article came out, I was out at Panera, and I was at a table next to some kids who were all using app and sending pictures, and I could just kind of catch a glimpse of some of the stuff, and it did not look appropriate for their age. And then, of course, this article came out, and there are so many apps that are hidden. They look like just an innocuous application, like a calculator or a map or something. As parents, I would just implore people to check your kids' phones and look at all the different apps that they're on, because some of them they're just sharing pictures, they're talking much like adults
text
messages,
shouldn't
be talking.
Websites,
they're sharing
links.
Location, and a lot of kids I know that there's in some of the school district here have been caught in these sexting scandals because they are sharing information. And the conversation that we have with our kids is, okay, you're going to get this, you may get this on your PC, you may see something like this, or when you are given a phone, but if you ever reshare something like that, then you're part of the problem. You're equally guilty for having that content. So I just think there was an article in the Huffington Post, the 12 apps that parents should look
That's
out
right.
for.
Look
on
for
their
that
kids.
article, folks.
Yes.
It's very important to read.
And then watch your kids' phones.
Absolutely. One of the apps that you mentioned is called a calculator, and it was created by a young kid. I think he was like 15 years old, who wrote the actual program. And kids are sharing these apps, not from the App Store, but they are sending text messages to their friends and sharing it that way, so they can avoid the analysis by Google Store and iTunes Store, and from the parents. So what parents have been doing is looking at their child's phone and going through all the apps and making sure there's nothing nefarious on their phone. But they would run into these apps like the calculator, where you have to enter a certain function or formula, and then it pops up with
the real app
to allow you to do other things. Not just calculator apps. There's other apps that are like Facebook,
Instagram,
like what's that other one? Snapchat, especially like Snapchat. Wow, that's a huge one right now. And kids are using it, so it's very, very important that you understand every app that your child has. Go through it, and definitely take a look at the article, because these apps change. Kids will change it. They'll change the name. They'll even take, folks, the icon of the app and change it. So when you saw it one week, it looked like what you remember, and they'll change it to something else where you're thinking, oh, this is just a normal app, but no, it's the same type of app.
Well, I was reading this article, and down below I always go to the comments, because I get a lot of laughter in the comments, and all these people were like blaming the apps and blaming, you know, whatever social media outlet, whether it's Facebook or the apps, or, you know, they shouldn't be allowed, the kids shouldn't be allowed to access them. Yes, I agree with that. They should do some age parameters or something along those lines. But you as a parent, like, take 5 minutes each week to go through your kid's phone and just be aware of what's happening. I think that's what we make these assumptions. It's not my kid. You know, there's a couple of them that were like targeting specifically for like cyberbullying. Yeah, exactly. And you always think it's not your kid.
That's right.
It's never your kid. Until it is your kid.
It is.
And I just think that parents need to, you know, once a week I check, a couple times a week I check my 12-year-old's Google account, because he has it through school. But I go onto his Google Hangouts and I block people and I read his content. I want to know what's happening.
I got a chance to speak to a group of 5th graders and about cyberbullying. I'm just tremendously surprised how much they know. These kids are so educated when it comes to technology. And when I mentioned about these hidden apps, you could see the group kind of like look at each other like, oh no, here's a cyber guy here. He knows what's up. And I could just tell that half the students there either had this app or knew exactly what it was. And it's like something they're keeping to themselves. A lot of kids are getting away from Facebook. They're saying that's their parents' apps now. And they're going to their own hidden way of having their apps. But we're watching you, kids.
Just be a step ahead.
Definitely a step ahead. And, you know, there will be apps coming out really soon. It's another thing for parents. Let you guys know. There will be apps coming out that will scan your apps on your phone, your kid's phone, and they won't even know that it's there. So that's coming too, where you can have this app put out it'll be either through your ISP that can scan all the apps on the phone. If it's not part of the apps from the App Store, it will let the parent be aware of it and inform them that they have apps on their machine that's not being approved. And since you are paying the actual bill for that cell phone, you probably would be very much so wanting to know that information.
Definitely.
Think so?
It's very scary, for sure.
Incredible.
Wow. Well, LastPass, you brought up LastPass. I'll go back to this.
Please.
So there's an enterprise one where you can share, if you have a secretary, you can share passwords within the organization, but it never allows them to change the password or do anything to manipulate your account without knowing you. So I think LastPass is incredibly valuable. Yeah,
you're absolutely right. It's really amazing. Let's say you have someone who works in your organization that's a temp person. You can give them a temporary password in an email, So they'll click on it. They'll have access to an account you establish for them. Let's say it's Federal Express because you're doing shipping and money orders or whatever. And it can be on a timer as well. So look, only have it for 4 hours during the day. Then after that, it deletes and they can't have access to it.
It's really great app.
Yes, and they can't go in there and change the password. That's the other thing too. It's very important. So that happens a lot too. So definitely check out LastPass. LastPass.com. Very, very important stuff. Yes.
Good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, folks, you can find out more about my company and the programs and services I offer. That means coming into your organization and speaking to your group and training your folks on cybersecurity awareness, because our best defense is through education, folks. It is through education. And definitely contact me, macjacksonjr.com. I'm here with Sonia Pedowick. I'm glad she's my co-host today. We'll be right back after these messages.